Hello, this September we've been talking about church and politics. There's no hiding or running away from the fact that whatever happens in the political scene affects our lives very directly. But how do we react to the things that are happening there? So this September we've been doing a three-part series on church and politics, and the very first installment came this past Sunday, titled A King, a Priest, and a Prophet. In Deuteronomy chapter 17 from verses 14 to 20, we see the Lord talk to the Israelites and tell them that if a point in time comes where you want a king, please appoint the king that I, the Lord, has chosen. And the king must come from amongst the Israelites, that they shouldn't be led by a foreigner. The third requirement for a king, and this is where it gets beautiful, was that the king should not accumulate much wealth to themselves or get many wives, lest their hearts be led astray. Can this swirl around in our minds a bit and see how the desire for wealth, the desire to accumulate as much as we can for ourselves, has affected how we view God? For our hearts have been led astray by this. Can we say that we see this in the political scene in our country? You tell me. And the fourth requirement for a king was that he was to have a copy of the law himself, and he was to meditate upon it day and night. Day and night, the king was to meditate upon the law. Again, when we look at the political scene, can we say that our leaders meditate upon the law of the Lord day and night? Otherwise, this would be clear in how the country is led. We've talked about the king. Then in Deuteronomy chapter 18, the very next chapter from verses 1 to 8, we are introduced to the priest. And what was the role of the priest? The priest was the go-in-between between the people and the Lord. He would serve the Lord by actually giving offerings and making offerings to the Lord. And it was important to note that the priests had no inheritance or share of the land of the Israelites. Why was this important? Again, let this swirl in your minds. Because the priests served the Lord. And in various scriptures, one of them being Numbers 18, it is said that the Lord himself was the inheritance to the priest, so that their hearts could be the Lord's and the Lord's only. That was the importance of the priest. And what did the prophet do? In the same chapter 18, from verses 14 to 22, we see that the prophet represented the Lord's interests to the Israelites. He spoke for the Lord. He spoke the truth. How is this important to us? Not all of us might be kings. Not all of us might be politicians. Not all of us might be leaders. But for those of us who are called to that, we must take heed of what the Lord talks about in Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 14 to 20. Yes, now we no longer have priests who represent us to the Lord, but the role of a prophet, I must say, it is still here with us, and it is still very important to speak truth to power, to speak the truth from the Lord. It is so important what the prophet was called to do, to the point where the Lord says that if anyone speaks from other gods, if anyone purports to speak from the Lord but is not actually speaking from the Lord, that they should pay for it with their lives. And the Lord also says that he shall call everyone to account, everyone, for not taking whatever the prophet said into consideration. So this is our encouragement, that we must be able to speak out without fear of whatever it is that might be coming at us because of that truth. We saw this in the prophets, with the prophets like Nathan, Jeremiah, and all of them who spoke the truth to power, even at the deadly cost of their lives. A king, a priest, a prophet.